I'm sorry I missed my last scheduled appointment with you, and really looking forward to being with you this time. I understand our dear Jean Watson had to do some fast thinking. And you know, those of us who are practitioners know there's always that time when they say you have to show up as miraculous. And so I'm really glad that that was able to happen. So our talk title today is Cleansing, Transforming, and Rebuilding. And the purpose is to re-presence us to the fire within, the light within that can burn away all obstacles and allowing the light of the divine to shine through. I want to start by sharing with you a personal fact. My partner of 12 years, Annette, and I got married earlier this year, and we decided to take a late honeymoon because she wanted to go to Hawaii and see the whales migrate. And so they migrate around November, December. So we took our honeymoon, we came back last Sunday. So I was going to regale you with this, you know, people go on a honeymoon and they come back with a slideshow, but we weren't able to get the slideshow, so you'll have to imagine. Well, one of the things is that we had some really fantastic experiences. We at one point dived off a boat and swam with a pod of dolphins, and we had this one incident where a green sea turtle, which is rare, came up and followed me around for about half an hour. Like, I don't keep swimming. There's all this footage on Facebook of me swimming away from this turtle, and it turns and comes, and I'm sitting there, and it's mobbing me, and it's got its like fins on my leg, and I'm like, this turtle's kind of fresh. But it was a really remarkable experience. And on our last day there of doing tourist activity, we were at this mountain lodge by the volcano, and the Hawaiian goddess, Pele, called me very strongly. I was in the lodge, and there's a kind of an observation deck, and we could look out and see all the volcano. And I had this strong urge. It was unresistible to go out and be in the presence of that. And when I stepped into that space, I immediately dropped into a meditative space that was deeper than I think I had ever experienced. And I had a compulsion to sing an ancient song to that land and to that volcano. It was a song I didn't know. And I sat there, and you know, it's kind of an observation deck, so I was expecting a lot of people to be walking by, but Annette was there, and no one came by. And it was me alone with this goddess energy. And when Annette asked me how to describe it, like, what was that like? And I couldn't put it into words. It was such a deep experience with experiencing the land and the energy and the fire. And, you know, I wondered, why would I experience that? I mean, I'm not judging it, but I was like, why that in particular? But when I came back here on the continent, you know, life resumes. And, you know, I start getting on Facebook and looking at the politics of what's going on in the world and looking at, you know, things that go on in our lives. And this Pele fire in me came up again. And I've been saying that we have to meet hatred with love. But I haven't been thinking about love as being powerful. I've been thinking of it as passive. And when I got in touch with that Pele fire within me, that fire, that molten lava, it started bringing up something different. Because it is not okay with me where bigotry and injustice occur. It is not okay with me that people are living in poverty. It is not okay with me when there are people who are being discriminated against because of their religion or their color or their beliefs or their ability. And it brings up this fire of Pele within me. It brings up this fire, and instead of being passive, I want to spew that energy from my head, from my eyes, from my pores, from my hands. I want to address this in a powerful way. And I start looking at what needs to be cleansed. So many times we have engaged in the things that we think are important, the things that are important to the world, the things that are important in our lives. And it's important to distinguish the difference between being attached and being committed. Because our ego wants us to be attached to something. Our ego wants it to have it go a certain way. But when we're committed, we are operating in the spirit of divine, letting the Spirit work through us as instruments. And so when I start looking at the difference between when I have this Pele goddess energy within me, I know that this is God, that God manifests in so many ways, that not only are there 1,000 names by which to identify the divine, but there are 1,000 ways, there are an infinite number of ways that the infinite can represent itself. And right now, we are called upon to manifest this Pele energy, this Pele cleansing energy, to identify what it is that is limiting us. What is the thing that we think, that we believe in so strongly that we're willing to be subject to it rather than be creators? And every single one of us has a different take on that. So when we start talking about the cleansing power, I allow this cleansing fire to rise within me and clear away in this power of the divine. I was joking with Annette, that when she says, well, what's the lava made of? And I was like, oh, it's the lava of love. But that fire within us, often we think of it as fire as a destroyer. Fire does lay waste to the things that no longer serve us. The fire lays waste to the things that should not be there. When we were in Hawaii, we would see acres and acres of just black lava fields. And the tourists and the people there would, the tour guides would say, there used to be a neighborhood there. Like, really? So you got online and looked up. There were 200 homes that were gone. That used to be there. A visitor center, a subdivision, right? All of that is gone. And I start thinking about the power of this fire to destroy. And what is it that we want to destroy? And I started thinking about, there are houses right now being built on a platform, a foundation of hate. There are houses that seem real. We relate to what is real and what is not. There are structures in place right now that we could relate to as if those things are the truth. There are things that are happening in the world right now that seem insurmountable. But when you consider the lava, the power of the divine to lay waste to all of these structures, we know that even though it appears real, even though we think that it can't be overcome, we live in a spiritual universe. We live in a spiritual universe that is spirit first, divine first. And that kingdom of heaven lies within us. That kingdom of heaven that knows our every need. There are days of begging for a savior. The days of begging for redemption. The days of begging for what we need. Those days are over. Because everything inside is inside of us right now. And it's not passive. It may take many forms. But when it's necessary, it can take the form of that lava and burn through every obstacle. Because no weapon formed against us shall prosper. Greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. Now we know that there's no separation between what's in us and what's in the world. But when we have a false belief that these structures built on hatred are real, that they are more powerful, when we have a belief that, oh, my financial situation has been this way, it can never change. When we have a belief that this medical situation is the same, it can never change. When we have a belief that that person is that way and they can never change. When we have a belief that the relationships we're in will never change. When we have those false beliefs, we can subject them to that lava, that Pele, that fire of God within us, and lay waste and presence that destroyer of illusions, that destroyer of false beliefs. And we have all we need. We have everything. We don't need to tell some other entity outside of ourselves what we need. When we realize that the oneness of the divine is inextricably a part of who we are, I don't need to go tell somebody. I don't need to verbalize it. I don't need to pray to an outside God to say, okay, this is what I need. This is my shopping list, right? We don't need to do that. There was a little story I was reading about a little boy, and he was saying his evening prayers, and he says really loudly, and Lord, I'd like a bike for Christmas. And his mother says, well, you don't have to yell. God's not hard of hearing. My grandma is, and grandma's in the next room. And so often we deal with our treatments and our prayers that way, that we're raising our voice to something outside of us to bring us what we need. But inside of us right now, we have all the food and all the water and all the wine and all the sustenance and the perfect relationships. We have the joy within us. We have within us the peace that passes understanding. We have all of that. We have it all within us now. And we know that our job right now is to focus on allowing, giving it space. And the more of the false beliefs we burn away, the more that energy flows through. I always think of it as, remember the old televisions where, you have to get up and adjust the rapid antennas. And the more I eliminate the static, the clearer the picture I'm going to get. The clearer what I created is going to manifest. It's already in here. So because we have all of this at our disposal, we know that we can use this fire as an energy to connect with that earth fire energy. And we can call on the Pele within us. The lava fields had extraordinary foliage. Like what came up from that nutrient-rich lava was extraordinary. You can imagine a rainforest and thousands of species of animals and birds. 90% of the wildlife in Hawaii are endemic. That means they can only exist in that particular space. They can only exist on that island. You can't transplant them and have them here. And so you think about the unique gifts that are coming up within us, that are unique to our expression. And when we take on destroying and laying waste to these false beliefs and these structures that we once believed in, and we take on rebuilding, renewing, we start to recreate this world in God's image. We start remaking this world in our image so that our highest expression of the divine lives in and through and as us. And so we are called to examine our divine purpose. We are called to be the Pele in our life. We are called to make a difference. not just in our personal lives, but in our public lives. We are called in a powerful way, and each of us has within us the ability to be powerful, to express love in a deeply powerful way, so that when we say love conquers hate, we're not talking about kind of maybe sitting in a corner and doing a kumbaya thing, right? Although that's fine, but that's not all of it. What we need right now is to express this Pele power of love and be unwilling to accept anything that's unlike the highest expression of the divine. That is who we are. So I just want to have us do a spiritual practice for a couple of minutes. And just imagine within you, in your gut, there is a fire. It is a divine fire. It is a divine creative force. It burns thousands of degrees and permeates your entire being. You are the embodiment of Pele, the embodiment of the goddess, the embodiment of creative energy. And to that fire, just imagine you're plucking away from you any false belief and offer it as an offering to the fire. I offer any belief that I am not good enough, and I sacrifice it to the fire. I offer any belief that I deserve anything less than perfection, and I offer it to the fire. I surrender any belief that I am a victim, and I surrender it to the fire. I surrender any belief in poverty, and I sacrifice that to the fire. I surrender any belief, any fear, and I sacrifice that to the fire. And I live in a spirit of gratitude that those things are burned in this fire and can never be returned. And in that space, the fire leaves a rich soil within you. And in that rich soil, in that volcanic rock, plant the seed. That seed of love that is so powerful, it can shoot through any rock. It can shoot through any obstacle. Inside of you are lush tropical jungles, beautiful flowers, birds, exotic fruit. Just take a moment. What are you using your creative power for? And slowly coming back into the room, knowing that you can return to your lush gardens at any time. Knowing that all is done in perfection. That all is God and all is good. As we move throughout these holiday seasons, it is going to be so important for us to take the time and remember that we are powerful creators, that we are the Spirit. We are the mouth of the divine. And within us lies the power to create this world. So let's use that power within us, that Pele fire, and bring a powerful world that works for everyone.